There's a fruit growing right now in cold regions across the globe that defies every agricultural rule we think we know. Its skin is so fragile that a gentle squeeze causes it to release its deep crimson juices. This berry blooms during the harshest months of winter, when every other plant stands frozen and lifeless. It tolerates temperatures that would turn liquid mercury into solid ice. Yet somehow, this remarkable plant not only survives, it thrives in conditions that would kill commercial fruit trees instantly. For over 50 years, the world's most sophisticated versions of this fruit were locked away behind a wall of secrecy in Soviet research facilities scattered across remote Siberian regions. Soviet scientists weren't studying it for fun or profit. They were racing against starvation. While farmers in Western countries were focused on making apples shinier and more appealing for supermarket shelves, Eastern European researchers were developing a biological marvel that could keep their citizens warm and nourished through impossible winters. The fruit looks unusual. Imagine a blueberry that's been stretched and warped in a funhouse mirror. The taste is even more surprising. It's like a red raspberry that's been aged in red wine, with notes of black currant woven throughout. But here's what makes this fruit truly extraordinary. It contains nutritional compounds so powerful that every so-called superfood currently sitting in your grocery store looks like sugar water in comparison. This is the honeyberry, and chances are extremely high that you've never even heard of it, let alone tasted it. So stick with me here on Nature's Forgotten World, because we're about to explore why agriculture's greatest secret has been hiding in plain sight. If you're the type who wants to break free from commercial food systems and start growing nutritional powerhouses in your own space, hit that like button right now. And please, subscribe to this channel so you never miss another episode about foods that were kept from you on purpose. Let's dig deeper into this story. Understanding the honeyberry means understanding its ancestry. This plant belongs to the honeysuckle family, which immediately raises red flags for most gardeners because many honeysuckles are actually poisonous. But the honeyberry is nature's exception to the rule. It's the evolutionary experiment that worked, the outlier that was specifically designed to dominate in the harshest environments on Earth. The difference shows up immediately when you look at how this plant handles cold. Take a commercial peach tree or cherry tree. When the temperature drops to 28 degrees Fahrenheit, those delicate spring blossoms wither and die instantly. A honeyberry blossom? It laughs at 19 degrees Fahrenheit without any damage whatsoever. But that's just the flowers. The actual wood structure survives temperatures that plunge to negative 53 degrees Fahrenheit. In the world of fruit plants, the honeyberry is essentially an armored tank. This extreme cold tolerance exists because of the plant's evolutionary history. It emerged from forests where survival meant adapting to brutal seasonal changes. Every fiber of the plant was shaped by millions of years of natural selection in unforgiving climates. That heritage is written into every part of the biology. But the real secret isn't in the hardiness, it's in the chemistry happening inside the fruit itself. We've been fed a story for decades. That story goes like this. Blueberries are the ultimate antioxidant superpower. They're the king of nutritional density. They're what you should be eating if you care about your health. Let's break down what's actually happening inside a commercial blueberry. Cut one open and examine the interior. You see that deep blue skin on the outside? Now look at the flesh. It's translucent. It's pale greenish or whitish inside. The concentrated nutrition is only in that thin outer layer. The medicine is literally only skin deep. Now slice open a honeyberry. The entire flesh, from the skin all the way to the center, is a deep, violent shade of crimson purple. The color isn't just for appearance. That pigmentation is anthocyanins, a family of compounds with incredible health properties. More specifically, honeyberries are packed with something called cyanidin-3-glucoside, abbreviated C3G. This isn't just another antioxidant. This is the master antioxidant. In laboratory studies conducted on human cells, C3G has demonstrated antioxidant activity that is 3.5 times more powerful than the compounds found in vitamin E. But here's what makes it even more remarkable. C3G doesn't just grab floating free radicals and neutralize them. It actively communicates with your cells at the molecular level and tells them to reduce inflammation. The numbers are staggering when you compare them side by side. According to analysis performed by major research universities using mass spectrometry technology, a standard blueberry contains between 160 and 200 milligrams of anthocyanins per 100 grams of fruit. A honeyberry? Depending on which variety you're growing, it delivers between 400 and 1,500 milligrams per 100 grams. That's an increase of up to 750%. Let's talk about vitamin C. An orange, which we all consider a vitamin C powerhouse, gives you approximately 53 milligrams per 100 grams. A honeyberry delivers up to 186 milligrams per 100 grams. This means a small handful, literally just half a cup of fresh honeyberries, provides more vitamin C than eating 3 whole oranges. And unlike oranges, you're not loading your body with a massive fructose spike that sends your blood sugar soaring. We're talking about a true superfruit that requires absolutely zero chemical pesticides or fertilizers to produce successfully. This is a plant that literally produces better nutrition when it's grown naturally without intervention.
The honeyberry isn't new. It's simply new to most of us in Western countries. For centuries, possibly for over 1,000 years, an indigenous people living in the northern regions of Japan, called the Ainu, held this particular plant in deep cultural reverence. They called it Huskap, a name that translates directly to the berry of long life and multiple blessings. To the Ainu culture, this wasn't just a snack food to grab when you were hungry. This was their version of the lotus fruit from mythology, a sacred plant that provided vitality and strength in a landscape that was brutally cold and unforgiving for much of the year. The Ainu understood the spiritual and medicinal significance of this plant. But thousands of miles away, another civilization was discovering its strategic importance for something completely different: national survival. During the 20th century, the Soviet Union became obsessed with food security. The leaders of that nation understood something critical. If your country doesn't control its own food supply, your country's independence is an illusion. They needed crops that could produce essential nutrients like vitamin C in regions where citrus orchards would die instantly in the cold. Scientists working for the Soviet government began searching the wilderness of the Kamchatka Peninsula, collecting wild genetic variations of this berry. For decades, we're talking 30, 40, 50 years, the process of breeding and developing improved versions of this berry happened in secret agricultural research facilities scattered across Siberia. These weren't just farms. These were heavily restricted government installations where horticultural experiments were conducted in complete secrecy. The berry became something that only intelligence services and agricultural ministries knew about. It wasn't until the Soviet Union collapsed at the end of the Cold War that these carefully protected genetics began to leak westward. It took until the late 1990s for a dedicated researcher named Dr. Helena Volkov at a major Canadian university to begin the monumental work of crossing the harsh, bitter, intensely cold-hardy Russian varieties with the sweet, delicate, beautifully flavored Japanese varieties that the Ainu had cultivated. The result of that breeding work was the modern honeyberry cultivars we can grow today. Fruits that possessed the rugged durability of Soviet engineering, combined with the refined flavor profile of Japanese agriculture. If you've ever tried growing blueberries in your garden, you know they're difficult. And if you've ever tried and failed, you know they're not just difficult, they're impossible for most home gardeners. Blueberries are the prima donnas of the fruit world. They're high maintenance and famously particular about their growing conditions. Blueberries evolved in bog environments, which means they need soil that's extremely acidic. Specifically, they require a pH between 4.5 and 5.5 on the acidity scale. If you live in a region where your natural soil has a neutral pH of around 7, growing blueberries becomes a nightmare scenario. Plant a blueberry in standard garden soil and something terrible happens. The plant's roots can't access the iron in the soil, even though it's there. The leaves turn yellow in a condition called chlorosis, and year after year, the plant slowly starves itself to death, despite being planted in nutritionally rich ground. To keep blueberries alive, you have to engage in constant soil management. You need to buy bags of expensive peat moss. You need to apply elemental sulfur every single year. You're essentially fighting against the natural chemistry of your own land just to keep one plant alive. The honeyberry operates on a completely different philosophy. It's the anti-diva of the berry world. It thrives across a massive pH range, from 5.0 all the way to 8.0. It will grow in heavy clay soil that would suffocate a blueberry. It flourishes in sandy soil. It does well in silt. It requires 0 sulfur amendments. It demands 0 pampering. It accepts your land exactly as it is and makes the best of it. But if honeyberries are so superior nutritionally and so much easier to grow, why aren't they everywhere? Why aren't they sold in every supermarket from coast to coast? The answer reveals something important about how commercial agriculture actually works, and it has nothing to do with quality or nutrition. The blueberry won the commercial agricultural war for one specific reason: logistics. The blueberry has a thick, waxy protective layer on its skin that lets industrial machinery harvest the fruit mechanically without damage. Blueberries can be shaken from trees, tumbled into massive bins, transported in semi-trucks across thousands of miles, and placed on grocery store shelves without bursting or leaking. They can sit in warehouses for weeks. They maintain their appearance and integrity. The honeyberry represents the exact opposite approach. The skin of a honeyberry is almost non-existent. It's meltingly soft, softer than a ripe raspberry, even softer than the raspberries you buy at the farmer's market. If you fill a deep crate with fresh honeyberries and stack it on top of another crate, the weight of the top crate will literally crush the berries in the crate below it. Your fruit arrives at the distribution center as juice. Additionally, honeyberries separate from their stems using what botanists call a wet scar. When you pick a blueberry, the wound seals itself immediately. When you pick a honeyberry, the fruit is often open at the top and juice actively leaks out. This makes it an absolute nightmare for traditional industrial supply chains. A fruit that lasts only 3 days before it goes bad, that stains everything it touches with purple juice, that requires careful hand harvesting and immediate consumption. According to commercial standards, such a fruit is completely unviable. It doesn't matter if that fruit contains 7 times more antioxidants than its competitor. It doesn't matter if it requires no chemical inputs. If you can't mechanically harvest it, if you can't ship it across the country, if you can't store it for weeks, then commercially speaking, it doesn't exist. This is actually your advantage. Because the commercial agricultural industry has completely rejected the honeyberry, there's only one realistic way to experience this fruit of exceptional quality. You have to grow it yourself. And here's the beautiful part. Growing honeyberries is arguably easier than growing almost any other fruit plant you could choose. But before you go wandering into the woods thinking you'll just harvest wild honeyberries, we need to address safety. Do not go into forests and start randomly eating honeysuckle berries. This is important. Many wild honeysuckles produce berries that are bright red or orange, and many of those are toxic. You're specifically looking for Lonicera caerulea or Lonicera villosa to be safe. Even then, unless you're an experienced forager with deep botanical knowledge, the safest approach is to purchase certified cultivars from reputable nurseries. These are plants that have been verified as the sweet, nutritious varieties rather than wild, bitter plants. The honeyberry is fundamentally a northern plant. It thrives in USDA plant hardiness zones 2 through 7.
It can tolerate Zone 8 if you provide afternoon shade and consistent water during hot months, but it really hates the extreme heat of the deep southern United States. Here's why. Honeyberries require what botanists call chill hours, specifically between 1,000 and 1,200 hours of time spent between 32 and 45 degrees Fahrenheit. These chilling hours are essential for the plant to set fruit properly. During winter months, honeyberry plants are deciduous. They drop every single leaf and go completely dormant. For several months, they look like dead sticks. This is completely normal and actually represents the plant's greatest strength. Don't panic during dormancy. This rest period is what allows the plant to wake up in spring and survive the killing frosts that destroy everything else. Here's a critical mistake that many people make. Do not buy honeyberry seeds from online seed companies. This is absolutely crucial. Honeyberries are not true to seed, which means that if you grow them from seed, the plant you end up with after 5 years will be a wild, bitter bush that bears no resemblance to the sweet cultivars you wanted. You must purchase dormant plants or plugs to guarantee you're getting the sweet genetics. You'll need to find specialized fruit nurseries rather than your typical big box home improvement store. Look specifically for established varieties like Aurora, Borealis, Indigo Gem, or the Beast. These have been carefully bred and tested for home gardeners. Here's another critical point that many people miss. Honeyberries are not self-fertile. This means a single plant, no matter how healthy, cannot pollinate itself successfully. You must plant at least 2 different varieties that bloom at the same time to enable cross-pollination. If you choose Aurora, pair it with Borealis or Indigo Gem. If you select the Beast, pair it with the Beauty. Without a partner plant, you'll get beautiful flowers but no actual fruit production. Plant your honeyberries in the ground during early spring or late fall when the plants are dormant. Then add heavy mulch around the base to keep the roots cool throughout the year. Then honestly walk away and let the plant do its thing. Deer typically ignore honeyberries because the leaves have a fuzzy texture that deer don't enjoy eating. Insect pests rarely bother them because the fruit ripens in late May or June before most insects have even woken up from winter dormancy. A healthy honeyberry bush can live for 50 years or longer, providing harvests for generations. Once your berries ripen and you finally pick them, the flavor experience is remarkable. Imagine a taste that sits perfectly balanced between a blueberry, a raspberry, and a black currant all at once. This isn't a simple flavor, it has complexity and depth. The newer cultivated varieties have sugar levels measured on the Brix scale, reaching 15 to 18 degrees of sugar. For context, a commercial strawberry averages around 10 Brix. You're getting sweeter fruit with far fewer calories and a much lower fructose impact on your body. By choosing to plant honeyberries, you're doing something genuinely revolutionary. You're reclaiming what I call the hunger gap. While your neighbors are paying premium prices for flavorless strawberries that were picked green 2 weeks ago and shipped from 3 states away, you'll be walking into your backyard during harvesting season and filling buckets with these deep purple fruits of exceptional nutrition and flavor. The agricultural industry will never sell this fruit to you in meaningful quantities because they cannot ship it, they cannot store it, and they cannot control it. And that's exactly what makes it the ultimate fruit of independence. If you're ready to plant crops that break the rules of winter and reclaim your food supply, I need you to hit that like button right now. And please subscribe to Nature's Forgotten World because we're bringing ancient food knowledge into the modern world, one plant at a time. Share this with someone in your life who's ready to stop buying what corporations are selling and start growing what they've been hiding. Drop a comment below and tell me what region you live in and whether you think honeyberries would thrive in your climate. I read every single comment. We're digging up forgotten seeds to nourish the future. I'm Wyatt, and I'll see you in the garden.